Mateo. Hi, welcome to Health Hangouts with Amanda. We are here today with Alana Danylchuk, who happens to be my sister. And so I'm really, this podcast or video podcast is really all about spreading strength, hope, and love to those of you out there who aren't accessing supports or resources, and who are, just tied up, in your homes, falling into depression cycles or heightened anxiety, things like that. I'm hoping that through these interviews with people that those who are listening are accessing ideas about what they can be doing to improve their mental health and help themselves weather the storm, because it's been a while already since we've had to go into lockdown, and there's a possibility that it could be a while still. And so what I'm committed to doing is releasing one video per day until we're allowed to go back into our communities and it's safe. And so today we have Alana with us. Obviously, I always say in these videos, Alana, I say, I've known this person for this long. So I've known Alana her entire life, because she was 4. I was 4 when she was born.
You know
so
what?
I've actually
I've known you for 31 years now.
Yeah, that's true. And when I had an interview with Julie last night, who happens to be one of my longest standing friends, I've known Julie for longer than I've known you. Is that crazy?
Wait, how did I get this shaft?
Well, I was awesome. 3 years old when I met her, right? 3 or 4. And then, I was 4-ish when you were born. So there you go. So, so I'm inviting people into this video thing that I know well, people that I admire, people that I want to learn from. There's some people in these interviews that I don't know at all. There was a woman I interviewed this morning named Tiffany, and she's a nurse, and I just met her this morning. So, and we had a really nice dynamic connection and conversation. So it's really wonderful not only to be able to share the ideas that come from these videos, but also, you know me, I'm quite an extrovert. So I love to have the connection too. And this is the thing too, and you'll be able to attest to this, is that I'm very busy most of the time. And so it's really nice to be able to actually sit with you and be able to chat in a way that we don't normally do. So,
speaking of somebody else you might know.
That's my nephew. Hi, Mateo.
She's known him his whole life.
Yeah, I was there when he was born. So, it might actually be, Alana, I said this to you, and we'll have to get to questions and stuff, but it might be really neat to do an interview with Mateo because of his age, and he might be able to shed some light on how this has been for teenagers out there. So if you can talk to him about that might be cool.
If you can get my 14-year-old boy to sit down and talk about things and not look at his phone for any duration of time, girl, I will buy you 7 plane tickets here for wherever you want, or Hawaii. We'll go to Hawaii. How does that sound? So if you can nail him down, that'll be great.
Okay, well, I might try to do that. So that was nice to see him. All right, so let's just have a chat about like how this has affected you. I know we do talk like semi-regularly anyway, but we have this uninterrupted time now. So what's COVID been like for you?
COVID has been crazy. It's been crazy. We don't live in a city. We're 100 miles east of the city. So our town has 100 people, and we all like to hide and stay in the bush. And so when we do go to the city, it's like a time warp. You go in on a Friday and there's not a car in sight. There's nothing.
Yeah, wow.
There's nobody at malls. There's nobody anywhere. It is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And so as our government here has started deciding to lift restrictions, people have been coming out. So Jared and I have our little,
and Jared's your husband,
heaven back here. Sorry, Jared's my husband. Yeah. So we have our little chunk of heaven back here. So one of the things that government has announced in Manitoba is that camping season is opening. So we have 15 or 20 trailers, boats, all kinds of utility trailers, all their equipment. We're going to have people coming and going this weekend because season opens up on Friday. So they start Thursday night at 4:30 and it goes, most people pick up their trailers through this weekend. So
it's going to be busy. And just to give context, you have a storage business where you store on your lot a ton of trailers and boats and things like that. So that's what you mean is people are going to be coming to get their stuff.
They're going to be coming to get their stuff and gear up for a wicked summer. Like we're hoping that something happens, bans lift, and we're able to carry on as the summer. A big thing in Manitoba is throughout the winters are hard. Winters are really hard here. They're cold. They're forever. A winter is like a Game of Thrones winter. Let's make that joke because everybody watches Game of Thrones. I don't, but most people do. It's like a Game of Thrones winter. It's forever. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait a second, we're going to get +5? What? This is insane. And so people have been flooding out, and we have a couple of trailers on the lot that are for sale. We have a couple of snowmobiles that are for sale. And so it's been running around showing them. And we're just really excited that we get to see humans again. Not that my townspeople aren't human, but new humans, faces you don't see often. So it's been pretty crazy. It's been pretty crazy. Lockdown is crazy. I know I put Mom on major lockdown because as soon as everybody went into lockdown here, they started piling out to their cabins. So they're coming to the gas stations out here. They're coming to the hotel out here, or to the post office. They're coming to the water pumps and to our garbage cages because we don't have garbage pickup. You have to take your garbage to a specific area. And our mom is a severe asthmatic. And so the second people started coming out, that's it. Mom wasn't allowed to go out Friday at noon till like Monday morning. Because it was too dangerous. It was too dangerous. If she caught it, it would not be okay for her. So she's been tucked away in her cabin, and she's starting to get out now to the greenhouses and loving it.
Yeah, so that's good. I know I was talking to Mom about, like, I phone her up and I'm like, "Are you safe?" And she's like, "Yeah, Alana is making sure that I'm not leaving the house." So I'm sure she loved that. But yeah, no, she when I talk to her on the phone, she sounds like she's doing really well and that she's happy.
She is. I have noticed that, probably because she's by herself at the cabin and I've restricted her immensely. Like, her friends aren't allowed to come over. She's not allowed. I mean, it's easing up a little bit now. But in the beginning, it was really hard because Mom really enjoys having her friends over, and I had to kibosh it for her own safety. I had to kibosh it.
Well, but at the same time, and I want to redirect and talk more about you, but Mom, I recognize, and I think a lot of people who might watch this video can recognize the importance of wanting to keep our loved ones safe. Right. And that's what I hear you talking about, is wanting to keep her safe. And that makes a lot of sense because we all can be stubborn in our own ways. And then, when I heard that Mom was going to volunteer at the residence home, and I was like, "What are you doing? You are retired. You don't need to go into that place anymore." And she's like, "They need help." And I'm like, if you get this, like, this is really dangerous for you. And so I really empathize. I empathize with your desire to want to keep her safe, and at the same time, she's going to do what she's going to do. But yeah,
she's going to do what she's. And actually, that the same day that she called, I had called earlier that day and offered my assistance as well, because part of the shutdown was we might stop getting agency workers. So agency workers come out from wherever and travel to our area to assist us on shift if we don't have enough people to fill that shift. So we both called that day out of the blue. Like, I didn't talk to her. We didn't arrange it. We both called and offered our assistance should stuff happen, should things get really bad. And so it was really nice to know that, both Mom and I were on the same page with wanting to go in, but in the same token, Like, I think I talked to you like the day after, and I was like, wait a second, this can't happen. Stay home. You can't go anywhere. Mm-hmm. So I put the kibosh on that.
Yeah, I'm a bit worried because out here, I can't just like get out there. It would have to likely require permission for me to drive across the country. And, you know, if she needed anything from me or you did, and so it's a bit scary, but yeah, she sounds well, and I'm thankful that you guys are together and able to you know, help each other out.
I keep her in line pretty good.
There you go. So for you, you're on maternity leave right now, so you haven't been working, but just in terms of personally, what has this been like for you living in that small community, and have you been affected in the family?
I've grown to love my community even more now, I think, than I've ever appreciated them before. Mm-hmm. We, like, if Jared and I are planning a trip to the city to go to Costco, go to Walmart, go to Superstore, wherever we need to go, a call goes out. And so we call the people who are older in town and make sure that they have what they need. What do you need? What can we get? People are calling us all the time saying, hey, I'm going here. What can we get you? And so it's community just really came together. I mean, there are the crazies that don't follow the quarantine rules. And so it kind of makes it a little scary because, I mean, our community is a lot of older people. And so it's really warming to know that, yeah, I have you, I have mom, I have Jared, and I have dad. But at the end of the day, I have 100 other people in this town who, if anything were to happen, I could call any of them and just be like, hey, I need you here. You know, something's happened. I need you to come watch the girls while I run in to take somebody somewhere. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that has far surpassed my expectation of community. And it's really nice to see that. And I think people lose touch of it in big cities. They lose touch of their neighbors.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You know?
I agree with that. I don't know any of my neighbors at all. And it's, I mean, largely because I haven't left the house in a month or more than that. But no, I have a great home life, but I don't know any of the neighbors. And you're right, like in a small town, I mean, it's hit and miss a little bit, because in a small town, everyone knows your business, but also in a small town, you can have, you can call like anybody up and say, hey, I need you here. Yeah. Whereas like, if I call any of my neighbors up, no, could I desperately go and knock on the door and say, I need your help? And would they help me? I don't know, you know? So, so it's great, but everyone knows your business in a small town too, which, you know, which can be a bit tough. But it sounds to me like you created better connections now as a result of all of us being in this lockdown.
I honestly think that our town has come together even more so than we were before. And it shows, like, if something were really to go south, now hold the phone here, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, if a zombie apocalypse happens, what if, you know, if something terrible were to happen, we have like our own group of people who are ready to fight with you. And it's really neat to see that. It's really warming to. So I'm very pleased and very grateful to have all of them.
That's wonderful. Are you concerned at all with all the city folk coming in to the park?
Oh, you have no idea.
Mm-hmm. Right? We're not allowed to go in malls, or, you know, if you've seen pictures of like downtown Vancouver, downtown Calgary, or whatever, and it's all like bare. So what's happening is people are like running out to the cabins and the lakes and the mountains, and like I tried to go for a walk like a few weeks ago down this path that there's never anybody on, and it was packed. There was nobody downtown. Everybody was on the trail, on the mountain path, and I was like, I can't even walk in here. Like, I had to go home because I was so busy. So it's like now everyone's flocking out to, and of course it's summer and we all love summer. Like, I don't know who, I'm sure there's some people who don't love summer, but there's a lot of people coming out to the lakes now, and there's a ton of lakes out there past, past the park gate. So, so yeah, like tell me or tell us a little bit about the concern that you have with all these city folk coming in to go to the cabins and the risk that it poses.
There's just, I'm grateful. It takes a certain amount of common sense to go camping and to survive it. So I am grateful that certain amount of common sense is going to be with my customers at the very least, the people who are entering my property, the people who I'm very grateful to see. I'm hoping that as long as they're practicing proper, let's hope so. Unfortunately, back to mom, she's going back into lockdown. Well, she's going to hate me by the time this is over, but she's going to have to go back into lockdown. She needs to protect herself.
This is, and this, we'll maybe be careful because we're being videoed, but she's a grown woman and she's going to do what she's going to do.
I love you,
right?
Mom.
But, but I think like we want to protect our family members and things like that. But, and I get that because she is a high risk, in the event that she goes to a gas station and you don't know, and but she talks to she's a nurse, like she has the mask and she wears the protective stuff, and
she does.
And she's smart, right? Like I know that she's smart, but it's obvious here that both of us are concerned about our mother's health because of her health.
How can you not be? How can you not be? And that goes anybody who's sat down and done an interview with you two, if they can honestly say they're not concerned about their mamas, like we all are. So it's going to be crazy ramping up. I'm hopeful that because it's the boondocks, because it's the bush, I'm very hopeful that maybe nature will do a little bit of its own. Yeah, I don't know. Stuff hits the fan here, it's going to hit hard. So the campgrounds have maybe 6 feet between people's heads when they sleep at night, especially in the seasonal sections. So just precautions.
This was going to say, we're taking precautions and doing what we can, and just being mindful of the people who perhaps aren't taking those precautions. I had a conversation with a woman named Alice the other day, and we talked about how it can be frustrating when people aren't taking precautions, but not understanding kind of what's happening for them. It's like I kind of equate it to, so say I was driving a motorcycle, which by the way I would love to drive a motorcycle, but I don't have one. But if I was driving a motorcycle, I have to be extra careful. I have to be extra careful of what all the other drivers are doing, right? And it's similar here. Like we have to be really careful about what other people are doing so we don't get hurt, or we can keep ourselves and our family safe. And so if there is a Joe Blow who is, being reckless or whatever, like he or she is going to do that, and we just have to do our part to keep ourselves safe and our loved ones. But it's tough because I don't think conflict is the answer either. People are getting into fights and whatever in the supermarket or whatever, but people are scared.
We still can't get toilet paper. Like toilet paper flies off the shelf. Like it's ridiculous. I stood in line at Costco for an hour and a half one morning, and there was 2 people who were probably 50 or 60 people up from me, and the line had looped around, so they had ended up being like right beside me, and very clearly 2 strangers, and they were fighting about it. And then you're standing there in line, and people come up and they try to cut in. And most of the time, I'm that driver who's like, damn, okay, you can get in. Let's go, come on. And I'll let people cut in. But you're standing in line at Costco, and it was raining and snowing that morning. and it was so cold. And you're standing in line at Costco, and some snotty lady wants to come up and cut the line. It's bad. It's fight or flight. Like, you are a mad chihuahua at that moment going, no. But you have to do it in a polite way. And it was, and people are crazy. There are some crazy people out there. And I'm hoping that even those crazy people, at the very least, once they get back into their own private space, take the time to follow their precautions. Like, okay, I might have touched something on the way. Yeah, I'm a crazy person, but I'm just going to wash my hands to be safe. Like, I'm really hoping that stuff like that happens.
Mm-hmm. And I think this idea of crazy it comes from a place of fear. Like, people are really scared of what's happening, and they're trying to get their needs met, and they're trying to get their toilet paper or whatever it is. I found that here, I went grocery shopping. I try and go like no more than every 2 weeks, but we went on Sunday or Monday. I don't know what day it is today. It's Wednesday today. So yeah, it was Sunday, and there were tons of toilet paper. Like, it was like, okay, but there were no Lysol wipes. Right. So it's just interesting. No. Can you imagine what these, like, the toilet paper industry, the demand that they had to increase production, and then, it's really interesting. But I think people are scared, and they're trying to have their needs met, and they're scared of what's going to happen in the future because there's so much uncertainty. Right. And I think, and then of course, food operations or grocery stores, or establishments like Costco, they're putting limits on how many things you can buy, right? So for someone like you and with your family, you're driving for 2 hours to get to Costco, and if you're only allowed to buy one item of whatever, it's like, that's hard, isn't it?
It's yeah. Right now, I know in the States, they started limiting how many packages of meat you can take out of there. Well, we have 6 people in our family. So a package of chicken is 1 meal. I can't just buy a package of chicken. Okay, so no, that's a lie. It's 2 meals. But still, like, I start planning weekly grocery trips into the city, and it's like, if I do that, I'm just amping up my risk now. As opposed to, I'm not hoarding. I'm not, what do they call it? Panic shopping. I'm purchasing for 3-4 weeks at a time so that I can bring it home and I don't have to go back. Yeah. So it's been really nice. And like I was saying about our community, it's been really nice. It's so, okay, you're not getting dog food this day. Well, I got it for so-and-so later. Could you please pick me up a bag this time? Because I used my 1 limit dog food for somebody else. Yeah. And so it's like, I don't know, it's crazy. I never
You're getting really creative about how to work together to have your needs met.
Well, yeah. And it's, I every time I go to the city, it hits me as we've lived through some pretty crazy stuff. They've always said about how our generation is the best in technology, and we've seen the most advancements. And I can't honestly tell you I've paid that much attention to technology. Yeah, we have smart TVs now and stuff, but then you start going at these like massive milestones in our world, right? So oh, I'm gonna do it, Amy, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm gonna do it. Okay, wait. So Trump was elected freaking president of the United States. Okay, massive milestone. That's like Kim Kardashian becoming the president of the United States. Like, you didn't think it was ever gonna happen, and then all of a sudden pot is legalized. A drug is legalized. I never thought in my life that I would live through something like that. And now there's an entire global pandemic. So this isn't like, it really gets me when it's like, yeah, it's just Canada. And it's like, no, I'm talking to my girlfriend who lives in Serbia. I've told you about Senya. And they go into lockdown. They go into lockdown Thursday at 5 p.m. and they have to stay in lockdown till Tuesday at 7 a.m. So she has her 3 kids. One's a teenager, a Olivia is 3 and Mickey is almost a year old, or just over a year old, sorry. And they live in an apartment. So she is, and this is like actual lockdown. Like they're not allowed to leave. They've got military and police patrolling. They're not allowed to leave their building. And so like there's oftentimes we'll sit on video chat and she's like, I can't believe it. I don't understand what's happening. And it really connects because like, it's not just Canada. Like that's one thing, like you see all these videos on Facebook and social media, but it's not just Canada. And you have to remember, like our entire planet is going through something that is so ridiculous. Like it's ridiculous if you think about it as like, yes, you have to be so careful and so safe, but at the end of the day, it's just, I'm awestruck. Like I'm just
yeah, me too.
There's a point of shock where you can't wrap your head around exactly how big this is. And I think that's something that's really, I don't want to say neat, lack of a better word, is an entire globe. So I talk about just my community coming together, but an entire globe is coming together, or it's being divided depending on which side of the fence you're on, I guess.
But what I'm hearing you say is that we have an opportunity to really come together. And that's a big reason why I'm doing these interviews in the first place, is to share them and say, listen, like you're not doing this alone, and everybody is experiencing challenges. And so how do we come together in a digital way or in a spiritual way or whatever to be supportive of each other? Like that same woman named Alice that I had the interview with, we were talking about connection on grander scale. So that particular person, she's an economist, and can you still see me? Can you still see me?
Yeah.
Hang on. Okay, because my power in my computer, all my screens just shut off, and that happens. Oh, technology. So she it's good now, I think. So she's an economist, and she talks about trying to affect policy change and in higher levels of government to provide supports to marginalized populations. And in that, we talked about the connection aspect of it. And she's like, well, I don't really know if it's connection because I don't talk to these people directly. And so what we established is that connection is found in what she's trying to do in support of them. So even though there's not really anything you can do for Stenya in Serbia, you can just be her friend, and there's connection there.
Yeah.
Right.
So she's currently searching for a house. So she sends me these houses, and in Serbia, it's a totally different, like they do stuff so differently. So she'll send me ads for houses or like the realtor listings, I guess. And so I have to sit there and I have to go through it and translate it all and figure it out because my phone won't automatically translate it for me. And it's really neat. And it's, and so the other day she's like, we're house shopping together. I was like, yeah, we are. We're finding out which yard's going to hold the most wine trees, grape trees, the grape trees. We like fruit. We have children. Orchards. That's what I was looking for.
Right.
There we go.
Yeah, we like fruit. We have children. So overall, I'm sensing that it has been, despite the challenges, it has been a positive experience in getting, creating this greater connection or friendships with some people in your community. That's really neat.
And the best part, so I have a 14, Mateo's 14 years old. I was going to pretend like we're not related, but anyways, we are. So he's grade 9 and all his marks now matter. So he's getting credits for everything, right? All these courses are credited, right. And yes, they froze everything where they are, but he also has the opportunity, like, hey, okay, well, you know what? Math could come up a little bit. It would be fine because what they're doing is they're not allowing them to drop grades. So they can't go backwards, but they can, if they do really good on assignment and that mark ups their grade, beautiful. So he's keeping up with all that stuff. And so with it, we've been using programs like Office 360, 365, sorry. There was another one that was called Teams. I'm not sure what that is. They use another one called Emoto, which is like, I don't even know what it is. Okay, I'm not even gonna lie and pretend that I know. They're using YouTube. they're using.
You know
so
what YouTube
many
is, right?
I know what YouTube is, but it's really cool because, and then on top of that, our buses. So our school division didn't lay off any of our buses. At least I don't think they did. They kept quite a few of them. And so every Thursday, so tomorrow at about 10:45-ish, the bus is going to come by. And so Tay can run out to the bus and hand his work in or get new work back.
Oh, wow. Cool.
And so they've done that for all the communities back out here, because like a lot of us, we're 25, almost 30 minutes from school. So it's we can call our school at any time. Like, so everybody's in lockdown and you're not allowed to be in public, but a lot of schools, at least in our province, still have staff. Faculty is still going. At least the full-time faculty is still going. And so at any time, if we're struggling with school, you just have to pick up the phone and call the school. And it's really nice. So we can also do stuff at our own pace. So I'm dragging my very strong, strapping young man outside to help me with yard work because I'm not pregnant. I have time to do this. And we can get outside and do so much yard work. We've been doing so much yard work. It's crazy, but it's so much fun.
You have a large plot of land there that you have to take care of.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, trees have to come down and garbage from the winter has to be picked up. We had a bear. It wasn't very nice.
I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was a jerk. And so we have a lot of garbage that we had to clean up. And it's fun. But you know, he can sit down and do school for an hour and a half. And you know, you get to those questions where you're like, oh, I can't get the answer to this question. I don't know what to do. This is stupid. And you start getting so frustrated. And it's at that moment, it's like, aha, but let's go outside and do some yard work. And so it takes his mind off of it. And then he's able to return later to it. Or, you know, I kicked him off the Wi-Fi tonight so that I could have this video with you. And so, you know, he's sitting down doing some schoolwork. Like, why not?
Good.
So I think there's less pressure. I honestly think there's less pressure on the kids. You know, you don't have that build up, that bus ride to school, and you're like, oh my gosh, now I have to do school and I have to deal with so-and-so and I have to, you know, kids can be mean, and they don't have to deal with any of that stuff anymore. They can do their work at their own pace. Now, I understand that there are kids that do need that extra little bit of help, and I really hope that the parents are being very supportive. I have a very hard rule in my house is you're not going to go to bed worried or concerned. You're not going to go to bed ticked off that you didn't finish something, because we have tomorrow and we're going to do it tomorrow, and that's okay. Like, it's just okay. You just have to be okay. And it's, you know, I watch my poor 14-year-old boy, and he's, you know, I get that he wants to see his friends. Oh, by the way, I've been interrupting his Instagram video chats. So much fun. The best thing in the world is to watch these poor children scramble. I'm not kidding. I'll just pop in and be like, hey, I'm Matteo's mom. How's it going? And they just scramble. Actually, a lot of them know me by now. They'll go, hi, Lana. So it's pretty neat that way.
It's lovely to see that you're so involved in your son's life, because a lot of kids don't have that.
No, and I really wish that I would love to be a part of a team to help. I don't know how to say that any better, but to help some of these kids.
To help youth. Well, and that's what I was thinking too, is you sent me a Facebook video a couple of days ago, and it was about a guy, it was a dad who had lost his son to suicide, and his son was 12. And
I need to make a change. He lost his son to COVID.
Well,
and that was the point.
Yeah, so he attributed it to the effects of COVID on his son, and I contacted him as to invite him to have a conversation with us here, like us as in like strength counseling. I did contact him. It was a very moving video, and a good friend of his is a public speaker, and he passed the message on because that's who I contacted to try and get a hold of this dad. But yeah, and so, you know, I don't anticipate to hear from them, but yeah, I reached out to, because his message in the video was really powerful, and yeah, and so I think although that, you know, you say for some youth it's a rest period and there's a silver lining and everything, right? I think for a lot of youth it is very, very difficult, especially those youth out there who don't have the support that they need at home. And that, you know, we can't even say, well, that's the fault of the parents, because we don't know the skill sets of the parents. We you know,
we don't know
parents do the best they can.
You know, we don't know anything about them.
So the question is and in your message you said, like, how do we support youth? And I would be, you know, in this organization, I would love to be able to support youth, but that's that same argument of, if you can get my son to sit down for more than 5 minutes without checking his phone, then power to you, you know. And we have been known to work with youth ages 13 and higher, but it's challenging, especially that young. It is challenging because their attention is elsewhere and they want to play games and they want to do different things. But yeah, it's a great question, because there are things like suicides that are happening because people don't know how to cope, youth included.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. I want to tell you, Amy, how thankful, how unbelievably amazing you are for attempting to reach. I'm trying not to cry again, lady. How wicked it is that you took that initiative to reach out to that gentleman, even if just to say, hey, I'm here. Like, that was something else. I sat and I watched that video and I bawled. The same, my kids, Tay's 14. I mean, he'll be 15 in June, so he's a little older than this boy was. But, you know, I find myself, and I don't know if it's me or if I think it's just me, because Tay is very introverted and he enjoys spending time with himself. Like, he enjoys being alone. He's always kind of been that kid. He loves to hang out with people, but he's always been that kid who's like, okay, I want to go spend time by myself now, which is fine, which is totally fine. And it, you know, I find myself worrying, and I will like check in on other friends who I know either need to have communication or need to be less communicative, and if I like a decrease in them saying things or talking to me, I'll message them and check in, just be like, hey, how's it going? Because I can't see any other way of trying to do that properly, you know. And there's this stupid post that's circulating about how you're not to measure your friendships right now with how many people check in on you. And it's so true. It is so true. You don't measure it by that. I care about these people, so I'm going to send them a message. I'm bored. I'm going to send them a message. Guess what? It's because of me that I'm messaging these people. I can't tell you that it's not selfish, because I need to reach out and be like, hey, how's it going? I'm still alive. How are you? You still alive? You know, I need to be able to talk to people too. Every now and again, I do get stuck in my head and it spins. So it's
yeah, we all do, right?
I'm very grateful for who you are, because being able to reach out to him or contact anybody and just be like, hey, and to understand that this is so much bigger than just one of us, just me. It's so much bigger. It's the entire planet is suffering greatly.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that, I mean, that gentleman, he posted that video for a reason, right? And it was one to also spread strength, hope, and love, you know, for other kids. And so, you know, whether he gets back to me or not is up to him. But yeah, actually, it's pretty common that when you send me a video about something, because you're, you know, just as much as you support who I am as a human and what I do in my practice and all of that, you have supported that greatly over the years, right? And so when you send me a video and you're like, hey, check this out, and it's like a video about, what was another one? Like there was
those cleaners,
the hoarding specialists, or can't remember exactly.
No, they cleaned.
Was it crime cleaners or something?
Yeah, something. They clean not murder scenes, but like people who. Okay, sorry, this is a little bit morbid. People who like died and then rotted a little bit in their home, right?
Well,
and so she would go in and completely declutter and clean everything, and
and that's a job that is relatively unheard of, you know. That's not a common, you know, streamline,
I have no idea,
applying for a job like that, but that's a real thing, and that's needed, right? And so anyway, we contacted that woman too to say, hey, I contact a lot of people that you send me stories on, and like there was another guy who was a barber, and he was like affecting change for men, and we contacted him too. And so this woman, I said, hey, you know, I see what you're doing, and I heard an interview about why that was important to you and supporting the families of the deceased and things like that. And I said, you know, perhaps we could also be a support to them. Didn't hear from her, and that's okay, because we can just like touch base, and if nothing comes from it, that's okay. We're not attached to that, but what we are willing to do is be collective in creating like a greater good in whatever way that we can. And so if some people hear us and say, oh, I really like what you're doing, then great, you know, we can all work together. And if some people don't care, like that's fine too, because I don't need everyone to care. You know, I want people to hear what we're saying, and if it works for them, then use it, and if it doesn't, then don't use it. It doesn't matter to me, right? But if we can actually affect change in a way that is affordable for people, like these videos, they're free. The support groups that we do, they're free. We ran a group today, and it was very emotional and moving. And then, you know, I get a text after that or an email after that saying, hey, can you tell me when the next group is? I really want to come back. And it's like, yeah, for sure. It's all free, right? Because we're not, you know, it's not about asking for money. This is about watching the economy crumble and standing together in the best way that we can, and doing what we can with the money we have, like buy food, you know, and taking all these extracurricular things and putting them aside, you know. And so I appreciate your compliment, and I value that greatly, because, you know, Lord knows that we've been through a lot together, and we've had our ups and downs, and I would say that I think our relationship is the strongest now that it's ever been.
Absolutely, hands down.
Yeah. And you step up and you support the vision that I've created and the team that we have here, and you've been just a really staunch supporter of us. And so, yeah, I contact most of the people that you send me videos on. So there you go.
I'm so happy to hear that, because a lot.
Yeah.
Fine. So I'm really happy to hear that you do, because right now and at any time in anybody's life, so this is our pandemic, somebody else has had their pandemic. What I love is that you're ready, willing, and prepared. This isn't all about making money. This isn't all about making money. It's about supporting people. It's about growing. It's about being there. And that's what I love that you're doing. Like, and she did not tell me to promote these free emergency groups, but I've heard nothing but amazing feedback and like comments, and you see things in, like, I sit on Facebook, I can't lie. I will sit on Facebook in the evening and go through stuff, and there'll be just like this little comment somewhere. Somebody I have no idea, and it's like, hey, I had this, and they'll mention strength, which is something that I think is so cool, because it's like, I know that person. I know. So it's really neat, and it's reaching people, Amy. It's reaching people, and it is a wonderful, I can't even tell you how excited I was when you launched that. That was something so spectacular. That really was. It was beautiful to see. You have a beautiful soul, and I appreciate it.
I love so much that you're a strong supporter of it, right? And integrated, and that's awesome. And I think that really has aided not only in this, the framework of building the company and supporting larger numbers of people, but also in our relationship. We've become closer as a result of your integration and support of this endeavor too.
Yeah. No, right? It's absolutely.
Cool. I've gotten to know you as more of a, on an adult human level than, the siblings 4 years apart.
We took that transition. We took that transition. Yeah. We finally did it. Oh, I can't even tell you how happy I am, because it's not like, I do have my moments. Where it's like, oh, she's still a pain in my butt. But then it's like, wait a second, I like that butt, and we're okay with this, because I can connect with you on an adult level, and that's what's really cool.
Yeah, and I think that, if mom and dad actually were to watch this video, I think, that's the one thing that they both said is like, can you guys just get along? Like, that's my dying wish, is that you guys will get along. And I'm like, and we're like, we hate each other.
No, she took this from me. That damn Polly Pocket of yours. Sorry, that had to come up.
But I hope that our parents can watch this and find some value in it, as we have found value in having a positive relationship with each other, right? And that's just super cool.
And I think pull mom out of the Stone Age, but you got to get dad out of the Stone Age. So I did my part. You got to work on him.
Oh, with the texting, is that what you mean?
Facebook. That old man won't get Facebook.
Oh yeah. I was there's people in his life who have Facebook and can show him pictures and things, but before he died, my grandfather got Facebook, so we could share some photos back and forth, but that he did die last year. But so I don't know, dad knows that he can access stuff on Facebook and he chooses not to get it, so that's okay. But he's pretty happy in his little life over there, so I'm happy for him.
This is something, actually, and I know that we're taking a huge shift and change here, so hang on. This is something, and you can tell me if I'm out of line. I would appreciate knowing kind of how you're coping with the anniversary of a loss during this time, where you have the people in your house that you can reach out to and you can hug those. Some people are huggers. I know I am. How is coping with the anniversary of Roy's loss in isolation? What things have you found that have helped the best with that?
That's a great question, and probably the greatest question anybody has asked me in this video series so far. So that moves me a lot. And I feel emotional about it, because as many of you know, Roy was an extremely important person in my life. He was my biological grandfather. And so his loss was devastating. That's the best way to say that. And so that happened April of last year. And so at the year mark, I closed the cycling business on the 13th of March and spent my birthday in quarantine. You spent your birthday in quarantine.
Yeah.
And it was the beginning of April that was the anniversary. And so what I tried to do is with someone very close to me, we went out to Salt Spring Island. Okay. And it was still essential travel only, but it kind of was essential for me to spend the anniversary of his death at a special place that I had spent with him. And so we weren't gonna see anybody or go into any store. We just wanted to drive there, and it was and there's a heritage park on Salt Spring Island, and so we went there, and the gate was locked because all parks were closed. And so we basically got on the ferry. We got to the locked gate. I cried a bit. And then we got back in the car and drove back to the ferry. And that was the trip over to try and like have some kind of, like if anybody's spiritual here who's listening to this, but like it's like having a connection with the last place you were that was really meaningful for you with that person. And I remember that day when he came to visit me and we walked around this heritage park, and then we sat on the porch of this old house and we just talked for hours with our coffees, and the coffee gets cold and we just like sat there in the sun, and it was just such a valuable time for me because I got to sit with this person I love so dearly and talk about his life and his history and things I didn't know about him, and so we were going to go and sit on that same porch, and I couldn't do that. So still, like to this day, it'll be important for me to go and do that as a like life just stopped basically. So I will be wanting to go and try and do that again when the parks reopen, and just sit on that porch for a few hours and you know, not in a religious way I say this, but send a prayer up to him, or maybe have some kind of have a conversation heart to heart I don't know, with him, but he was legitimately like my most favorite, like no offense, he was like my favorite human.
We got this.
But yeah, so I appreciate that question a lot because I haven't I've had some conversations about how the impact of that on me, and that day on his anniversary I did phone all the family members who were also affected, like all my biological family members. I did call them and ask how they were doing and told them what I had planned to do, and we went for a walk that day. And yeah, it was super tough, but truth be told, I mean, the man smoked a pack of cigarettes a day, and he, you know, had he gotten sick from COVID, like that, he wouldn't have made it.
It would have been pretty bad.
And so I'm, in some ways, I'm thankful. This is hard to say, but it's like I'm thankful he didn't have to deal with what's happening in the world now. And
no, I get it.
Yeah, and I think so, you know, so there was that, and then at the same time dealing with a lot of loss as a result of COVID. So the business that we had to close, and that we subsequently like moved out of the building, so we didn't have to do the rent thing anymore. And it's complicated. There's a big story there, but we ended up doing that. So lots of loss, thinking that, oh, now we're going to have to go under, and we're not. We don't have to do that, thank goodness. But it was still like, now this is going to destroy us. And so in the midst, like in April, we were freaking out about being destroyed business wise. And I'm going to say this delicately, but there were other personal aspects of my life that also were falling apart quite rapidly and have come to fruition in a broken kind of falling apart way just recently. So, and that was devastating to me also for various reasons. And you know about that, and I won't go any deeper into detail about that. So it wasn't just Roy, it was all the change, all the loss, the isolation piece, not being able to actually see friends and hug people. Like that's I thrive off of being around people that I love. And I have a partner that I'm with, and I love her dearly, and I don't know what I would do without her. But yeah, there's this piece that's really missing out there.
Okay, you must still be in the honeymoon.
Especially
10 years into a relationship. Sorry, I'm just thinking about this partner that I love dearly, and I love him so much, but yeah, sometimes. Anyways, especially.
Well, I think just there's been an immense amount of loss in my life recently, and I know there's been an immense amount of loss for a lot of people, and you know, so the way I cope with that is like part of my therapy. I have my own therapist, but part of my therapy are these videos, and it helps me stay connected in ways that I otherwise wouldn't. You know, when I become depressed, and I know that other people can relate to this, but when I become depressed, I just like, I watch Netflix all day and I cry all day and I don't do anything. I don't take any responsibility. And so, you know, having the anniversary of Roy's death was hard enough on its own. And you compound that with an immense amount of loss otherwise. And it was devastating. And I did spend weeks crying about it, about all of it. And I had a great support at home, but yeah, it wasn't easy. None of it was easy. And I'm finding, like, on Sunday, I finally felt, so it's Wednesday now. On Sunday, I felt like there was like a relief that I was able to achieve, where I had some kind of freedom from the torment of the loss, of all that loss. And so Sunday, it came to a culmination where I could rest, and I had a great day on Sunday. And some hard things in the last few days, but I felt there was a shifting that happened there. And so I guess the message that, and I'm moved by your question, obviously, but the message that I want to give to anybody who's watching this video, this probably is the most personal video that I've put out there into the world. I mean, you're my sister. I'm talking about really hard things, and I'm happy to share these things with people. But the message is that I know it's hard, and sometimes it feels unbearable, and sometimes we have to cry ourselves to sleep at night for 2 weeks in a row, and that's okay. We will get through it as long as we're not trying to run away from the feeling or change it in any way. I know that a lot of people are really afraid of what's coming, as we don't know. Some people are optimistic, but I sense more fear than optimism. And if we can brave the storm, like, it does shift, because from April 13th, when we closed that building, the cycling building, to Sunday, to this past Sunday, was all devastating for me. And I just know that there is like that, and I don't mean to be cliche, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it does get easier. And so I could have done a lot of things to become more depressed during that time. I could have contemplated suicide. I could have done a lot of things to help myself try and feel better. And I did wallow for a while, for sure. But I did choose to take responsibility and do things a little bit differently day by day, and put in, like, instead of watching 4 hours of TV, I'm just going to watch one show, and then I'm going to choose to do something else. There was an interview I did with a woman named Petra DeBow, and we talked about that. We talked about how easy it is to fall into these depressive cycles, and to do something different every day, and to pick up a hobby, and to learn something new. And really, like, that's what saved me in all of this, is the support I had around me. And for those of you who live alone, like, you can access digital support. Like, there is a lot of value in that. So that was a big thing, is connection and support, and making a decision to do something different than allowing myself to just wallow for days in my sadness. Right? We get a lot of cats that
my
walk past
cat
the
never
screen.
comes out.
They seem to get very jealous, and they want all the attention to be on them. So in a roundabout way, I'm saying, like, if the story here, if you guys can take something away from the story, it's that, like, don't give up. Like, it does get easier, but you have to take responsibility for what you need to do. And I didn't want to do any of that,
No. At the same time, there is tomorrow. There is tomorrow.
Yeah, it's such a gift. Like, when the sun rises, it's like, we have a new start,
Yeah. If it's, I know I find myself dealing with a loss recently. And it's kind of ever since isolation hit, it was like bang. And so I had to table a lot of it, and was like, hey, you know what? I can't do that right now. You're going to sit on this shelf. And actually, I had a great conversation with one of your coworkers, Brittany, and it has stuck with me for a very, very long time, since I had the conversation, over a year now. And it's,
oh wow,
for me, it's that grief. I take it and I stick it in that little box in my mind, and I put it up on the shelf, and I say, okay, we're going to come back to you at 4:00 today. And so I have to shut off that. And then that's what's going to allow me to get up and not fall into that cycle. That's where I don't watch that 4 hours of TV. That's where I go and do things. Okay. So I don't watch 4 hours of TV ever. I have 2 very young children on top of a 14-year-old. So I watch Paw Patrol. Okay. I watch Paw Patrol. But at the same time, my girls are so easy that I can just, like, if I wanted to, I could probably pull off 2 hours of TV. But it's like, put it in this box, and this is the lost box, and that's okay. We're going to stick you on this shelf, and it's going to be the blue one, because the blue one I come back to at 4:30. And when I have that minute, I take it out and I go, okay, let's think about it. I'll cry for a minute and I'll put it back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, you know, if you need to cry for 2 weeks straight, do it. If you need to cry for 15 minutes, do it. I go through different, like, I know when you go through a cycle, it's a lot different. Like, you can cry and cry and cry and cry, where I'll spend 5 minutes crying and then I'm mad. Like, I am mad as a wasp stuck in a can. Like, so I have to, and I think that's like, I can't even imagine, you know, the setting you live in is so different from where I live. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine you not being able to get outside and go and do whatever you want in your yard. Like, you have this itty bitty little yard, like, you would walk around it once and it's like, hey, what do I do for the next 30 seconds? Whereas I could spend all day picking through bush, and oh gosh, you have no idea. So I think it's like, I feel for the people who live in cities who can't get out, the ones who are trapped in lockdown in their apartments for weekends and 3-4 days on end. Just reach out, find somebody's going to listen to you. And you know what I did? So there was this post online, and I know this is terrible. There was this post online about, I do this to myself all the time, seniors and the help that our government hasn't provided to them yet. And so they're finally being awarded, at least in Manitoba, our government is reaching out saying, okay, well, here's $200. And then the next post was, parents get an extra certain amount of money for their children, which was never asked for. And I'm like, I can't even tell you how grateful I am for that, because it's going to help pay for those multiple trips to the city, as opposed to my one big shopping trip. So that's something that I'm very grateful for. But there's these people, and I noticed that, you know, late 50s, early 60s, 70s, these people are commenting on it, and they're getting upset that parents are getting this money. And I like, it really dawned on me that, like, this is one of those times where, you know, you go down into your pantry and I've got this can of beans that I'm never actually going to make that chili for. Oh, by the way, the last time I tried to make chili, I destroyed it. I have no idea what I put in it. It was just some, like, random spice in my cupboard. I was like, hey, let's add this. I can't go anywhere near a chili. Like, I have to give it a year at least. Like, I killed it. The house stunk. We went out and got food that night because it was terrible.
Oh my gosh.
Should have left it to Jared. But go into your pantry, grab that stupid can of chili beans, stick it in a box, go and knock on your neighbor's door. Your neighbor's not going to say, no, I don't want that. They're going to be like, you know what? That's really great. And you're going to have a conversation. You're going to have a small
from 6 feet away.
Yeah. From 6 feet away, because you didn't want that stupid can of chili or the can of beans. Good. You can fart, neighbor. Like, that's your business. Stay locked in your house. Yeah. But take something, like, you know, you notice, what generation lives beside you? Old lady, young lady, old man, young man?
It's generally the older folk that live around here.
You know what, Amy? Take a couple pictures and be like, I thought these were really great. I don't have them hanging on my wall anymore. I thought you might appreciate them. And just put a note on them and leave them there. Like, it is amazing. Like, in our small community, we have all the time, I come home and there's something left, right? Somebody left something. Somebody made 7 casseroles and only needed 5. So they dropped a couple off somewhere. Oh. It is great when you go to the door and it's like, oh, there's a can of beans hanging on my door. I love it. You know, reach out to your neighbors. Love thy neighbor without getting ridiculous. I'm sorry. Or religious. Love thy neighbor. Like, this is the time. Did you see those 2 old ladies? I know we're talking as if we're not recording. Did you see those 2 old ladies in the window? And they're just something, I think, what did she run out of? She ran out of something. And the old lady beside her, I guess they've been fighting for a while, puts this real nasty comment in the window. They're fighting with their pictures in the window. But at the same time, at the end of the day, when all of this restriction lifts, they're probably going to sit down and have tea together. Like, how awesome is that? So just reach out, take that can of beans to your neighbor.
And that's wonderful. And recognizing that we don't know what's going on for people. We don't know how much pain they're in, or pain they're not in, or whatever. And so just, you know, a random, again, I don't mean to sound cliche, but a random act of kindness can go a long way.
Yeah.
And it's helpful, right? So yeah, and that's, I'm kind of taking that as a nice bow that we can put on this conversation, as this seems like a natural place to close, but just like this idea of being connected, you know, love thy neighbor, offer them something that you have that you won't find value in or don't use anymore. And if you don't want to go to the neighbors, drop it off at the food bank or the shelter, you know, in town or whatever.
Yeah, keep your distance. That's back here, okay? So we've had 10 moose come through town, Amy. 10 of
10
them.
moose?
Like,
oh yeah, I'm
seeing
lots of posts about animals coming out as a woodwork.
So cool. It is so cool.
Yeah.
But in Rennie, we say stay a moose apart.
Yeah, well, it's true because they're so big.
Yeah,
we have a lot of those.
Feet.
A lot of those in Lake Cowichan on the island too. There's moose crossings everywhere. So, well, Alana, it's been really nice to connect with you this way, because this is not something that we do often. But I think it's solidified more of a like, it's really been really positive. And so the next time we think about doing this, you know, there'll be a lot of interest there to do that. So I'm really, and I love the things you said today, and how have you shared your experience, and you're willing to do that on camera in front of the view of whoever might watch it. I mean, generally we get 100 or 200 views on each video, depending. And those numbers change as we release more videos, but that's generally what we're looking at now. So if there's anybody who does find value in this and wants to talk to Alana directly, then you can certainly reach out to us. Is that okay with you?
Totally. I would love to.
Because there will be people out there who are like, oh, I live in a remote community too, and it's really lonely, and like, how can I connect more with my neighbors, and how can I do this and that? In the emergency group that I ran earlier today, there was a woman who said, I live in rural, like it was way over in the east somewhere. I won't even say where it is, but it was way over in the east. And she's like, yeah, it's really lonely out here. So if there are people out there who want to connect with another person who lives in a rural area,
I'd love to.
You know? Yeah, and I know you would. You'd do that. So yeah, keep sending your videos, because I value them, and generally try and make contact out of them, because they are moving and important. And then you know, just give your kids a kiss for me, and
and we talk about Auntie. So every time, sorry, I know I'm interrupting again. Every time I come in the door today, I don't know why, she was stuck on you today. She goes, Auntie? No, baby, Auntie's not here. So we're gonna have to get on and do a video with the girls.
Yeah, we'll do a video with her, because she knows how to say Auntie now, and that just warms my heart. Little button. Yeah, so that's good. Okay, love. Well, we'll leave it there today, and then we'll just text like we usually do. We normally talk every day via, you know, text or Facebook or something like that.
Answer my message.
Yeah, and I get there. It might take me a little while, but I get there, I promise. But yeah, so thanks again. Tell Mom I said hi. I'll call her myself also, but next time you see her.
Yes, for sure.
Cool. And then we'll talk soon. Thanks a lot, Alana. Love you.
See you. Love you. Bye.
Bye.